everybody. Welcome to another edition of Another Fine Mess. I'm Roger Gray, along with my good buddy,
Mike Vance.
right there. Good to have you folks with us. Appreciate it. We're here to basically palaver about, pretty much whatever is on our minds right now. And I told Mike before we started, I'd like to start with the Big Bend, because there's been a lot of consternation, rightfully so, about the whole idea of building this idiotic border wall. And Mike, I do find it amusing, before we get to the Big Bend part, there's all this push to build more border wall, and yet at the same time, there's all this self-congratulation about how well they've done at the border, how crossings are down. So again, why are we spending the money if we've already gotten it done?
Well, I can clear that up. It's because there are kickbacks. There is large amounts of money flowing to all of these people that are supporters of the administration, supporters of Greg Abbott. Did you see, and I want to hear about the Big Bend thing,
Yeah.
but I'll just drop in here. There was a little story that popped out the other day that the largest detention center, which happens to be in Texas, the private owners of that have pocketed $250 million of taxpayer money to handle this detention center. So those are not being run by the government. Those are favors and payouts and kickbacks. It's more corruption for this administration, both on the state level and the national level.
Oh, well, frankly, on the national level, I was reading a piece just this morning, as a matter of fact. The grand total so far of the Trump family, in terms of personal income increase, is $4 billion just since the second term began. Personally made $4 billion, which is, somebody added it up, if you take all the money every president since Washington made on the side personally, it's still in the millions. It doesn't even begin. This is more than all the presidents combined have made in personal income.
Exponentially more than all the presidents combined. The family, that stupid, embarrassing UFC event that's going to be on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
Apparently, the immediate family is selling $12,000 gold commemorative coins for that. I mean, there's nothing they won't stoop to. Anyway, back to Big Bend.
Yeah, and we'll get into the other as well. But back to Big Bend, many border projects are moving forward, but there is not going to be, apparently, a physical, towering steel wall directly through Big Bend National Park, which is good news, because I was finding myself wondering, where the hell are Abbott and Cruz and Cornyn and the rest of the gang to stop this thing? Well, apparently all those beautiful pictures of what is that canyon? I
Santa
forget.
Elena.
Big canyon.
Santa Elena.
Santa Elena, yeah. They're not going to have a wall through that, thank the good Lord. But they are going to build outside the park, 175 acres, 175-mile stretch, rather, in Hudspeth, Jeff Davis, and Presidio counties. They are going to put a wall there, and they are putting up 17 miles of these barriers. They're not as annoying because animals can get through them. So migratory animals, sheep, elk, deer, whatever, can get through them. But they're there to keep off-road aficionados from tearing through the park. So there you go. Even though the administration has loosened the rules for driving off-road in parks. Now, there's still limitations, but so you can't just, go to Yosemite and go crazy. But they have loosened the rules on four-wheeling in national parks. But that's what the barriers are going to be. They're not as annoying. They're not the big wall, and they're not going to block access to the river. And there are only like 17 miles of them. So,
well,
actually, this is good news.
We shall see, because after the midterms, we'll see what the appropriations for all of that bullshit turns out to
Yeah.
be. So anyway, hopefully they will stop this nonsense of wasting
Yeah.
money on a wall system that's not the deterrent. It's a symbol. It's a way for their supporters to make money.
Of course. And emphasis on the word symbol. It's just not that effective. I joked last week that you build a 30-foot wall, you start selling 31-foot ladders. I mean, there's always a way around it. How are those tunnels coming? Yeah, that sort of thing. Anyhow, while we're on the subject, by the way, and we'll do this quickly because I know you want to move on from this. We should mention there was an interesting development in the Senate race. The Houston lawyer, Dan Cogdell, big time hotshot Houston lawyer that we're both familiar with. He represented Paxton during his impeachment hearing in the Senate, the state Senate. He endorsed Tallarico this week. He found Paxton's personal ethical problems just too much for a United States senator.
Yeah, well, the difference is that on the national level, they appoint the lawyers that handle their dirty laundry and keep them out of prison to some sort of post. So Paxton didn't have that opportunity. And Cogdell comes out and goes, yeah, this guy's really worthless. So I'm going for the other guy.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, have you seen the trans song about Tallarico that's been turned into an ad to the tune of My Favorite Things from Sound of Music? Yeah. Although that has not been a big issue for him, it's what they're going to try to tag him with. So.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time. We spent way too much time on this. It's only June.
Well, but it's going to get worse. You got to admit. The last thing I will say is that Ted Cruz, in an interview with Sean Hannity, surprise, surprise, talked about Tallarico not being manly. This from the guy whose wife Trump called ugly and whose father Trump called part of the JFK assassination, and who bolted the state when the weather got cool.
Yeah.
So, certain amount of hypocrisy there. Okay, what do you want to get? What's first on your agenda?
I would like to talk about the war. And we've talked about this, the war that the administration says is over, and yet that we keep fighting every day. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of things, and one is we talked about the cost to the U.S., which we're not getting a straight answer. We know it's at least $50 billion. It very likely is north of $100 billion because there was so much damage that was unreported to our bases that the Iranians were lobbing missiles into. So north of $100 million, which billion dollars. But I read a couple of interesting articles talking about cost, and I wrote down some things, not to us, but wanted to talk about Gaza, for example, because just what I was saying about money-making opportunities, flour has gone from 50 cents a kilogram to $27 under the Israelis. Eggs from $2.50 to $130 for eggs. $190 now for cooking gas. So what happened was the Israelis are clamping down on the trucks that can go into Gaza. And it has supposedly gone from 400 a day to 14. The same thing is happening in Iran. And first of all, civilian costs, some people have died. The Iranians admit 1,700. Other people may or I've seen numbers like 30,000 people killed, more than 30,000. The Iranians are like, that's not the case. But what is happening is that cooking oil in Iran has gone up 430%. Eggs up 345%. Milk up 139%. So you talked about last week the cost of diesel and shipping things around in the United States. If we
Right.
don't get all this sorted out by the fall, they're already having that in Iran. They're already having that in Gaza. They're having that to a certain extent in Israel itself. So, and certainly in the Gulf countries, because their economies have already been disrupted. The Iranian people, they're disgusted by this whole thing because that theocracy that is in charge there, that dictatorship, is more cemented in place than ever. And when news comes out that Ahmadinejad was the guy that Trump and Netanyahu wanted to put back in place, that was a slap in the face.
Former prime minister.
Yeah, I mean that was a slap in the face. So anyway,
And I think I think Ahmadinejad was killed in a strike.
well,
If I recall reading that.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that. But you've been to Israel and the Middle East multiple
A few times, yeah.
Yeah. So help me out here because I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in Houston. I am not Jewish, but I grew up, all my friends were growing up. And being in comedy, many Jewish friends, many of whom have
Yeah.
spoken out against Netanyahu. And yet,
Yeah.
when you do so, you get called anti-Semitic. So help me out with that as somebody who has traveled there extensively.
It's interesting because usually that charge is used as a cudgel to keep people from criticizing the government, because what they're criticizing is the government. Donald Trump was raised Presbyterian. If you have complaints about Donald Trump, it doesn't mean you don't like Presbyterians. If you go to Israel, you'll find plenty of criticism for Netanyahu. People were marching in the streets before October 17th, sort of quieted everybody down. They were marching in the streets against him. He wanted to make big changes to the judicial system. He wanted judges to no longer be elected but be appointed by the government. Netanyahu is, let's face it, he's an authoritarian. We throw that charge around a lot, but he is. I made 4 trips there, reporting trips. Once during a war, and a couple of them after a couple of big peace treaties. One of them, the Oslo Accords, and opinion was very much divided. You found lots of Israelis who said, "Yeah, go ahead, turn the West Bank into a Palestine, give them their state, guard the border." Lord knows Israel has the strongest military in the region. Guard the border. If they step out of line, we can take care of it. If they don't, great. Maybe they won't be blowing up buses in Jerusalem. There were plenty of pragmatic Israelis who said enough of this. Now there are hardliners. A lot of them are on the West Bank, and Netanyahu is making sure there are more of them. The settlements. They call them settlement. When you say settlement, you're picturing like Boonesboro, Daniel Boone. You're picturing, the early settlers in Texas, San Antonio de Bayar. What you have, these are basically suburbs.
Yeah.
Very nice townhouses, rows of condos. They're suburbs, filled usually with expat Americans or expat Jewish Europeans. And that's fine. Emigrate to Israel, that's fine. But they are, the old phrase, more Catholic than the Pope, about converts. That's what these guys are. These guys are more hostile, obviously, toward their Arab neighbors. And Netanyahu's got half of them in his government. This guy, Ben-Gvir, he's having settler demonstrations on Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock is, second holiest site in Islam. So, yeah, you've got that element there. You've also got an element of folks who grew up there. They helped build the country, And they're sick of all this. They're tired of it. Settle the whole Gaza thing and so forth. The Gaza, by the way, they're still killing people in Gaza.
Yeah.
And isn't that one that Trump was supposed to have ended?
A
The big,
7-month-old got killed the
yeah,
other day. Yeah, 7-month-old boy.
the treaty.
What?
So yeah, opinions divided there, and they are not afraid to criticize the government, and they're sure not going to be called anti-Semitic.
Because from our standpoint, and Hiroshito and Netanyahu apparently have had a little bit of falling out with our guy
Yeah,
telling Netanyahu that, you need to shut up. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is acting like the closest I can say is when you go out and your girlfriend gets drunk and causes a scene and you're about to get the hell beat out of you and you're trying to get out of the pool hall and you're going, hey man, no harm, no harm. Let's everybody calm down. We got to take off. And the girlfriend's still standing there going, hey pussy, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
we'll just see ourselves out.
Yeah. So, now we got to say that our guy is the one going, this is boring, boring. I don't want to talk Pete because it's boring. So
I know.
we're not going to get out of this anytime soon. They started a war out of choice that we cannot win. Not without a massive change in our American lifestyle. And there's several articles that have been out as far as this peace settlement that the framework's pretty much set. It's just like nobody can figure out how both sides can come out looking good.
Yeah, this was. There's a good argument to be made that Netanyahu influenced Trump to strike when he did. I mentioned many times, sadly, on this program that we were negotiating about the nuclear program when we decided, oh, the hell with it, let's go ahead and hit them.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of talks, for goodness sakes. Now, granted, it's Witkoff and Kushner, for goodness sakes, the Abbott and Costello of international diplomacy, but or Costello and Costello, actually. So no straight men involved there. But still, there was a lot of influence from Netanyahu. This is something he's always wanted. Iran is a thorn in his side. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. But basically getting us to do your dirty work, come on. That's not what a superpower does.
Well, but we have a completely pliable buffoon in the White House who anybody who compliments him gets what they want. That's not hard to figure out.
Well, yeah, and obviously Iran hit Israel, Israel hit Iran back, and Trump is saying, okay, you both done it. Everybody knock it off now. We'll see if they actually knock it off. And obviously, I've been to the Lebanese border. I sat in a kibbutz, which is those were the original settlers, and they're all wonderful people. Those are the people that built Israel, and they still live in little villages, like you expect a settlement to look. And I spent a couple of nights on one right up at the Lebanese border, and you could see the UN outpost from the edge of their property. So, there are people who they want this to be over. They want the same things everybody else wants. And Netanyahu is keeping a lot of this going for personal power, but also it keeps him out of the court because he has charges waiting for him and an election waiting for him, which he is probably going to lose. There are charges of corruption, and they've been put in abeyance because Israel was at war. The Hamas attack actually gave him the ammunition he needed to put everything off. It's sort of the Ken Paxton of the Middle East. So it's complicated, and yes, there are aggressive, internationally aggressive Israelis, but for the most part, most of the folks I met just get it over with. I got kids to raise and a job to go to. So
So I got another.
anyway,
I got another topic for you.
yeah,
I want to talk about screw worms, which, as several people have pointed out, are not nearly as much fun as the name implies.
yeah,
The reason that they are, well, one of the reasons that they are here, that they are now in Texas, in multiple counties in Texas, and these will kill cattle. There is a dog that has gotten infested in pretty far into the state. I think in Gillespie County, which is Fredericksburg. At any rate, we had foreign aid before this administration took over. And you can make the same case on the Ebola outbreak in DRC, by the way, in Congo.
which by the way, they're saying may be the worst outbreak ever.
Yeah. So, but here in the United States, we now have ranchers who vote overwhelmingly Republican, who are in danger of losing their entire cattle herd. When we had programs through foreign aid to stop these flies, these screwworm flies, before they ever got to the United States, they dismantled that. This administration fired 25% of the staff that handled that sort of thing. They cut funding that handled that sort of thing. And what do we have? We have an ag secretary who is, the other day, she blamed it on Biden somehow, that this was happening. These are all
The program. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
these are all preventable things.
Oh yeah, the program to raise sterile female flies so that when they get to breeding, nothing happens. You do not get new flies. That program began under Biden, for goodness sakes.
Yep,
So
but let me point
ahead.
out, the claim was that this had been eradicated as a pest in 1966. So let's talk about how this has forecast. They found these flies and screwworms in Central America. They have watched it march to the north. Cattle in Central America and Mexico have been wiped out by this. But we're not supporting the programs that will keep it from our border. Sid Miller, who is a wackadoodle of an ag commissioner here in Texas, is at war with the USDA because there is another bait program that puts poison out to kill these flies. Now, the old one in the 60s used poison that is long since been banned, but they
Yeah.
have updated it with modern approved poisons to kill these flies. And Sid Miller's going,
Because it would kill everything. Yeah.
he goes, you're not using these at all, and these are 70 to 80% effective. And then you bring in the sterile flies, and so who knows? But you have now various Republican ag officials fighting one another, but nobody talking about the fact they cut the programs that were designed to stop this in the first damn place.
Of course. Of course. Well, and her argument, and she's from Texas, is she not? Am I remembering that correctly? Her argument
That's
is
Mars, I don't know.
that, yeah, her argument is that because Biden let so many people come in from Mexico with their pets, that's how we got the screwworms. No, that's not how it happened. But fine.
That's not
If you want
That's
to, if you
not
want
how
to,
it
if you want to
works.
peddle that on Fox, yeah.
That's not how that works. And these people, I mean, they have talk about the climate monitoring that we spent $368 million to put in place, that they are actively dismantling, pulling monitors out of the ocean that we had in place, pulling satellite monitors down. They want us to be blind. They want us to be stupid. And they're succeeding.
Yeah, because, well, let's face it, in those cases, it's not something he believes in. He does not believe in, well, at least certainly claims to. He does not believe in the whole idea of climate change, quite frankly. So, forget windmills, forget monitoring from space, forget monitoring the oceans, forget all of that, because in his mind, it's all bunk. because sciences don't contribute to his campaign. Fossil fuel companies do. And look, I drive a car too. I'm not crazy. We're going to have fossil fuel as part of our lives for years and years to come. But the whole idea that it's all bunkum is obviously it's fantasy. It's whistling past the graveyard, or as I wrote last week, whistling past the coal mine. He's bringing back coal, for crying out loud. A couple of my trips were to Germany. I was there before the wall came down. And if you go into East Germany and you look at the environmental minister told us we're going to spend millions of dollars just cleaning the buildings because they were burning coal, unfiltered coal in East Germany. So, yeah, no, don't do that. Don't go back. It's not 1899.
Well, it is if he can make money and put it into his family's pocket, as we've seen. So
Well, and the deal is here in Texas, 30% of our power. If you're going to build all these data centers, 30% of our electric power comes from renewables.
more than that,
You take those,
more than
yeah,
that.
you take that out of the mix, yeah.
Yeah, it's over 40%. Last I looked, and you get this campaign of misinformation with people going, well, but windmills cause this, and those solar, yes, they take up more space, but they don't pollute the groundwater. They don't pollute the air while they're in place. Yes, you have to dispose of those the parts at some point, but on balance, it's not even close. It's not.
Like nothing gets replaced in a refinery.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing gets replaced on a drilling rig. Plus,
it's absurd.
unlike natural gas, oil, coal, any of the others, the power source is free.
Yeah.
It's free. Nobody's charging you for the sunlight or the wind. So it has now become the cheapest source of energy. It just has. And I'm sorry, but that's the case. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this whole, and it began, I've written about this as well. It began because Trump hates the way they look. The Brits were putting out windmills in the waters off of Scotland, and you could see them from his golf course, and he hated that.
Yep.
He lobbied the Brits to not do that, and they said, "No, we're going to do it." China has put up more wind power than all other nations combined.
Yep.
So if China's one of your worries, if they're on your worry chart, you need to think more about wind.
Well, there are, as just with everything else, there are lawsuits trying to stop these efforts, and many of them succeed eventually. So, we'll see how some of this stuff plays out. The 100 mil he was throwing toward Total, the French company, Total,
Oh, yeah. To not build a windmill.
to not build a wind farm. Yeah.
a farm.
So anyway,
yeah,
you had
so
other stuff on your mind this week too. So
Oh, yeah. Back to the president. Do you have any thoughts on his appearance on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker? I was very proud of her right up until the end, but other than that, what are your thoughts?
it's his typical MO to come on there, call people stupid, repeat the same lies, and expect that the puppy interviewing him is going to roll over and take it. And she did not. She fact-checked him in real time and said there's no evidence of this. You got the Speaker of the House making statements like, well, you can't get the evidence. It's buried too deep. So, okay, we'll just make the accusation. We'll take them at face value because you have no evidence. And the president admitted, by the way, during the thing, he actually said, well, no, I don't need evidence. You can look at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I make of it, that finally someone stood up to him. She kind of lost her cool at the end of the thing. But
Yeah, we came out here to Wisconsin. Well, okay, Wisconsin's a very lovely state, actually. So, yeah, that was kind of weak tea there at the end. But I was looking at some of the defensive comments whenever comes up on Facebook or someplace, and they say, "Oh, she was rude." Well, no, she was telling him, "Sorry, that's wrong." You can say that's rude, I guess. One of them had a freeze frame of her when she was looking
yeah,
particularly energetic, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if she made that face after he called her crooked or inept or just stupid.
yeah. The
Because he called her all of
Yeah,
those.
exactly. And that what has been making the rounds, along with people going, nobody ever treated Obama like this. Yes, yes, they did. But more importantly, Obama answered the questions. Obama never
Yeah.
made baseless charges and repeated them over the matter of a decade. So, that's just,
But Mike, I found myself wondering something watching that and watching Trump talking to her. He has used these arguments so much. The old trope that if you say something enough times, people start to believe it, even if it's wrong. Do you think he's starting to believe
oh,
this
yeah.
stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That I really got cheated. And I know there's the personal thing of I can't believe I lost this, lost this race. No, nobody can believe that. But I'm wondering if he has convinced himself now
Absolutely.
that the J6ers were righteous folks, and
I don't know about
that he was legitimately cheated.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but the legitimately cheated, that has been his MO for long before he got into politics.
Yeah.
He always has had a grievance against anything that goes against him, and therefore those people must be wrong. It's in show business terms, it's believing your own press clippings.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been that for a long time. So yeah, I'm sure he has come to believe that they legitimately stole the election to a certain degree. Now he pushes it and pushes it and pushes it because it's red meat for the uneducated followers of his. So I think it's a little of both.
And by the way, I looked it up. He did actually say at one point, "I love the uneducated."
Yeah,
I know people have said that, but he did actually say that in a speech.
yeah,
So
because they don't call him on anything. They lap up whatever horrible spoiled milk he tosses into the bowl.
by the way, Barron Trump, I love that he's named Barron, which is a big financial magazine, folks,
Yeah,
for those that may not know.
spelled the,
Barron Trump, huh?
spelled the same way
sorry?
with two R's.
Yeah, yeah. Barron is he has a side gig going. Kid's still in college, isn't he? He has a side gig going for what, an energy drink? Is that the deal? You didn't know that? Okay, he does. And I'm guessing apparently Andy Borowitz, who is hilarious, by the way, if you've never read his work, wonderful satirist, had a picture of Trump falling asleep at the Knicks game and said, obviously, Barron's first field test of his energy drink has failed. So, I mean, I know it's kind of goofy, but is Trump a bad luck charm like Ted Cruz was for the Astros?
Well, Ted Cruz, I mean, that's been proven. And it's not just the Astros. He shows up at
I
any
know.
game in the Texas.
UT, yeah,
Yeah.
UT game,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I mean, that's time tested. I will say this: I'm a Rockets fan and have been since they moved to Houston. I do not root for the Spurs, so I have been pulling for the Knicks in this series. However, if the Knicks had to lose one game, I'm very glad it's the one that the guy that the New Yorkers despise had shown up at that game. I mean, not that he saw it because he fell asleep, but they booed him roundly, and hopefully the Knicks win a couple more and everything's over.
And by the way, I have always heard this and had it confirmed by doing a little reading. He has this tendency to salute, like when the national anthem is playing. A civilian does not do that. Even the president. There are plenty of pictures of Ike and Truman and JFK. When the national anthem is played, you put your hand over your heart. Everybody does that. Who is a civilian? You do not salute unless you're in uniform. That's just the way it is.
And he has saluted Chinese soldiers. He has saluted all these soldiers from other countries as well. Like, he's the dictator of the world, apparently. But yes, he loves to salute.
And I was watching a video, and they played the marching band in China played YMCA.
Yeah.
They literally played YMCA. But I noticed something. And I commented to my wife because I saw this at the Russian May Day parade and all the rest of it. Why is it? And I saw. I thought about it watching a Ken Burns documentary on World War II. Why is it that authoritarian countries, why do they always use the goose step? They all do it. The Russian army goose steps, the Chinese army goose steps, the North Korean army goose steps. Interesting to me.
Well, it looks fancy. I mean, I will.
It has to hurt.
But
slapping your foot down has to hurt.
Yeah, I think back though to Glenn Miller, the movie with Jimmy Stewart, and the scene where they played, the American, what's it called? The March, the American something March.
Washington Post
No,
March?
No. This was a
jazz. Well, he had a song called American Patrol.
American Patrol. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And at any rate, there's a scene there where they play American Patrol when Glenn Miller's in uniform and all those guys are marching. You can't do that with a goose step. So, we got to rule that out because we need more jazzy American Patrol kind of big band marching tunes. And goose step, that's right out.
Okay. Well, and you know what? We're about 37 minutes in. So, Michael, it is probably time for your historical fact, your weird historical fact of the day.
I wanted to talk about phrenology. Have you ever delved into phrenology very much?
That's feeling the bumps on your head.
Yes. In the
that's about as far as I've delved.
Well, in the middle 1800s, that was huge globally. I mean, Queen Victoria had readings for all of her kids. Everybody was Lincoln. Apparently had a phrenologist come to the White House, but there were phrenology parlors that you would go to, much like you pass these people that do tarot card readings or palm readings or whatever. And I got three little stories here. This one just drops me. Horace Mann, who is the father of American education, a Massachusetts dude, apparently used phrenology to assess teachers and figure out how good they were going to be. Charles Darwin almost did not get on the Beagle because the captain of the ship looked at him and said his nose was a sign that he was of bad character.
Okay.
But the guy that I ran across that apparently was totally consumed, obsessed with phrenology was Walt Whitman, who went for a reading in 1849, and I did not know this word, amativeness, which means a capacity to love and increase your sexuality. And they told Whitman, who was famously gay and wrote about sensuality in his poetry, they told him that he was off the charts in that by feeling his head. And adhesiveness.
Walt, you devil.
Yep, adhesiveness, which was another term which is social bonding and all of that. So Whitman had this report printed up and republished it multiple times during his long life and distributed it. Went as far as when Leaves of Grass came out, Whitman printed the phrenology report and slipped copies of it into Leaves of Grass, basically using that bogus, weird science, pseudoscience, as like a book blurb, like a critic's review, sending this thing out. So there,
Or just trying to generate a little action.
there's your weird
one or the
history
other.
fact of the day.
Okay. Michael Vance, thank you, sir. Appreciate it as always. By the way, tell everybody where they can find this Another Fine Mess.
Ah, yes. I mean, presumably they found it to be watching this, but the verbiage that we need is anywhere that podcasts are distributed, dispensed, tossed out of the back of a car. You can find it on Apple, and you can find it on iHeart, and you can find it on Spotify, and you can find us on YouTube at the Another Fine Mess. If you're watching this version,
Site.
where we
Yeah.
can see each other, you can find that on the Another Fine Mess YouTube channel.
And we post it on Facebook and so on and so forth. So I think I even pop it up on Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully,
So-
hopefully they will not be able to avoid it.
And as you say, and I always found it interesting when I was doing television particularly, to run a promo for our news in the middle of our newscast. You've already found it.
Yeah.
You're wasting a promo. But anyhow,
Want it to be a habit.
that's it. That's it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it as always. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us for another Fine Mess.
Spread the word.